right. So I'm gonna try to get more commentary for all these events I'm doing. I think it's gonna help out. So just to give you an idea of everything I'm going through in this event, I'm boat number 1. Okay, that's kind of a big deal, and I'll explain why. But I'm rooming with a buddy of mine named Blake. It's his first Open. He's fished Toyotas and everything else like that, and he's done really good in them too. Almost won one, made a couple top 10s. He's done really good. But I was like, man, I don't know what the deal is with these Opens and some of these lakes we go to, but watch what happens. This is going to be different. I don't know why. I can't tell you why, but Opens are different, and usually things change. And if you hear it in practice, you know, there was a storm coming through, there was rain, a front was coming through, like all these things were going through my head. Like this is what's going to change. Like stuff's going to make this change. You're going to get bit in practice, and no matter what happens in practice, it will change in the event. And I always tell them, man, I stopped worrying about that and I just go fishing, because that's usually what happens. Very rarely does it stay normal. So I kind of look to see what's going to change, but I usually can't ever figure it out. So I'm just sitting here going, what's going to change? Because it's going to change. It always does. And it's almost impossible to predict why it does, or when it happens, or how it happens, but it does. So this is already going through my head within literally the first 2 to 3 minutes. This is what I'm thinking about, because I'm boat 1, so I get to fish at least for a while in some water that no one's touched. So if you saw right at the beginning, I know the music was on, but I hit a stump coming in here on my trolling motor, and I hadn't hit a stump yet, not in here. And I had a small fish miss it. Didn't really have that in practice. So now it's already going through my head. I got 3 or 4 bites through here in practice within like 4 or 5 minutes, and I didn't hit it very hard. But I already know what's going on. And the water has dropped, and it dropped every single day. And I get that. But for whatever reason, now I think I'm going, you know what? It's probably dropped too much. I'd gotten a lot of bites away from those reeds. None were by the reeds. So I already started changing and throwing actually shallower, which doesn't really make much sense. But when I'd come through here in practice, they were further out and they were big ones. And I could see them all. And now I'm catching, once again, another bite, and it's a little one. And I'm having to throw way up there shallow. And that's great. I'm getting bit, because that's the only place I can get a bite, but they're little ones. And I wasn't getting these little ones. So in my head, I'm trying to go, okay, what am I going to do? But I can tell you one thing. I instantly know this is what I'm talking about. So I'm moving pretty quick. I know that I'm the first one through all these places, because this is all really close and I can see. And now as I'm idling, I'm hitting bottom really, really bad. And nothing felt right. I knew it wasn't right. I knew the water had dropped, and I knew it changed the whole event. It changed the whole event for everyone. So I was like, let's go here. Let's go to the place where I was excited to kind of go, but it scared me for a little bit too. This is the 3rd cast. And one hits it, and I'm like, okay, it missed it. I'm not really excited the fact that it missed it, But I did get a bite. I'm going, okay, hey, I'm gonna go down here. This is where I really wanted to fish anyways. This is where I thought I could actually crush them and do the best in the event. So I'm going, hey, you know what? Third cast, I'll have a limit through this stuff. And they'll be big ones, and I'll be okay. That's what I was thinking. I didn't think the water dropping would affect this as much. Yeah, 2 hours later, I still don't have another fish. I've got one, and that's it. And I had no more bites. So let's go do something different. I will say here, y'all saw me get some bites going through. I really started way at the end of this. So I'm like, well, no one's in here. I'll hit all these docks. This is, remember where I first got bit, right? On my practice video, you'll see that's where I actually started. And I had 3 bites from here to basically that little dock. But right here, guys, I still haven't had a bite. This is where I had my last bite and I left. Okay, I didn't fish anything else. Literally right here. And this is key. I started figuring some things out pretty early in the event. Now, this is only my first time to figure it out, but I never forgot this bite. It's almost the exact same cast where I caught one in practice. I catch one. Not 10 yards before, 10 yards after, right there. It was a decent one, but I went down this whole stretch and had never had another bite. So that comes into play later. I started thinking about all these things. So that all this stuff is going through my head. So here, I'm kind of doing some different stuff. I went back to the reeds, throwing a swim jig in them just to see if it would change. I'm hitting a lot of different stuff, and I see Hallman. So I'm like, let's talk to Hallman.
Can I come talk to you for a second? How are we going to catch them since they're not on the bank anymore? Huh? How are we going to catch them since they're not on the bank anymore? Dude, they dropped the piss out of this thing.
I know it. I got stuck over there.
I heard you. I heard you.
Dude, it's terrible. A couple of walls,
How many you got?
2. You got 5?
No. I started in here, dude. I got to come through here before anyone. And caught one little 14-incher over there somewhere. They're like, so it's not like a pressure deal. They're gone.
They're gone because of water.
Dude, they weren't here this morning, dude. I got to fish all through there, all around there.
Well, I started in the marina.
Like they just ain't up here no more. They dropped it too much, man.
So, you're allowed to talk to competitors in the event. And if I just happen to run by Hallman, we might chat for like 20 seconds. And I already know, like I tell him, it's not a pressure thing. It's not a pressure thing of where too many people have been there. So, like I said, I hadn't even been here in practice. I do lose a 2.5 pounder there. Really didn't do nothing wrong. But remember this, guys. Remember this tree and that little cypress tree. I didn't ever hit this in practice. Way down there on the very far left is where I had one bite, right here. Okay? I remember I told y'all, hey, remember that tree? I put an arrow to it. It's that same pepper grass. And yeah, man, what do I say? Heartbreaker. So I ended up losing that thing. It was at least 4, probably a little bit bigger. And the reason I put that on there is that's where I had gotten bit in practice on that pepper grass. I didn't fish anything before. Remember I said I was island by and I saw it. So as I idled up to it from around that point, I realized there was more of it. So I fished it. I fished it fairly fast, but I still fished it. Didn't really fish it great, but it was also later on in the day. So in my head, I'll explain why that was important to me. So I move on, get to right where I had that one bite in practice, threw in there, and lose that one, which was a pretty big one, like one between 4 and 5. So in my head, I'm going, okay, this is where they're at, just like the other one. It's a specific little spot, and I haven't hardly gotten bit, and I got it bit again. So once again, I'm like, okay, I'm only starting to get bit exactly on certain places. So the other pepper grass, when I didn't get bit, didn't really do much for me. I didn't really think much about it. In the practice video, it shows me getting bit right here. This is a fairly decent sized pocket. This is a little island there. Anyways, I get a bite. It's not a big one, I get it. But I fished for the next 45 minutes in this entire pocket. It's the only bite I had. I had 2 bites in this entire pocket. This was like 10 feet from where I got bit earlier. So once again, all this stuff is now starting to play in my head going, you know, are they that specific? And it was for me. Once again, this is also, I get bit way at the end of that, at this, way down there on the left, on the last boat dock. But I'm sitting here going, I didn't fish any of these boat docks. So I fished them all of them. So I got back down here to basically the second to last boat dock. I don't have a lot to say. It's frog fishing. Like, I kind of think this is what I do. I just lost it. The other one, I kind of know what happened. When they scream out of there like that, the first one that I lost, like it screamed out of there and running 100 miles an hour, and it's hard for me to catch up. I went back and watched the video on this one. I smoked on this fish. Who knows where I hooked her? It was bigger than the other one, for sure. And I lost it. So now you just hope to get one of these bites. But now I got 2 and I lost both of them, and I have 2 fish. And guys, I have to weigh in at 2 o'clock because I'm boat 1. And it's after like 12:30 or 1. It's hard to remember exactly at this point in time because I got to idle out of here. It's a long idle. I fished around there for a little bit longer. And I'm sitting here going, you know, you practice that much, you do all that stuff, you work that hard. And I've got 2 fish with less than an hour, and you know, but it's fishing. You always got to keep your head on straight. So I did. I kept plugging along. I went back in here trying to get maybe another bite, and I'm sure you can't see it, but I see there's a guy on these stalls, and there's a guy to the right back there down the bank. And I'm going, nope, not going to get in here with these guys. So I turn around and I take off. And this is what's on the video. I don't show this in my practice video. I didn't ever even have it up of filming, but I went back to where I got bit in practice. This was like the first place I started, the very first place. And this is what's crazy, is going down this bank, right up here. You'll see all this play out. You got to watch this.
I'm really good. What?
Hell, yeah.
Because it's a waste of a fish. The mother 2. God, I have a freaking bag. Dang it.
Okay, I have to explain this real quick. That arrow, that little point was the first place I ever got bit in practice. I was waking a swim jig down that point, and one comes up there and eats it, and I shook it off. Here's the crazy part. When I threw up on that point, it felt like I spooked something. It didn't bite. I spooked it, and it like ran out of there. Okay? Now you can't see that. What you can see is a fish exploding on the bank closer to the boat. So when I spooked it, I swear, this is what happened. The fish swam out of there, did something, and then swam up closer to the boat on that bank and exploded on something. And in my head, I'm sitting here going, that's horrible luck, right? Because usually when you spook a fish, it's not good. So I spooked it. It comes back, eats something else down the bank, not my bait. And I just throw up there. Of course, it doesn't bite it. And then I'm thinking waste, right? It was a waste. And I'm going, of course. And then I literally, the bait is basically almost out of the water, and I see a fish come up and eat it. And that's why you see I didn't do anything. All I did was just set the hook and it's in the boat. So that's 4, guys. That's 4. It is 1:45 at this point in time, right? I caught the other one at like 1:43. So now I'm going, do I have a shot? And this is crazy. This is how you know when you can have the worst day in the world, right? And you need 15 minutes. And I was so confident at this point. I had got bit on everything on a swim jig up to that point in practice right there. And I just got 2 bites on a swim jig. But yet, you'll see what happens next. You got to watch. So that arrow, that's my other bite I had in this pocket in practice. And it was on a swim jig. I got bit right there on a swim jig, and yet I'm throwing my popping perks. I don't know, it just felt right. Even after catching those 2 fish on a swim jig, I just changed and start throwing my popping perks. And that's when you know, like it doesn't really matter even the last 5 minutes. I'm just fishing what's in front of me, and there you go. Not about that. That turned around like the whole freaking day. I'm not too upset now. So now I got 5. Huh. I got 5, and I think it's like 151, 152. I fished for like 3 or 4 more minutes. I mean, I gotta get out of here. I got a 2-minute idle, and I gotta run a little ways. And here you go, man. That's my day. Turned around. I never got anything.
Yeah, I'll give you a 5 I got you. Check that.
Did you?
Yeah, we give you one.
You don't remember either.
Yeah, I handed you one.
I swore. We ain't gonna talk about this.
No, I don't know about it. Thank you.
I think you did that. I think you threw that in there when I wasn't looking.
Well, I handed it to you.
I'm gonna go with my story. I just like giving that guy a hard time. We joked about that for the next 2 days.
What, you got 20?
Well,
Was your bad fish, sir?
you know, of course I knew boat 1 would suck because I'd be all freaking, not really anything that great.
Boat 3 had that same mental deal going on.
Yeah. So anyways, I rolled through freaking stuff so fast, but I instantly knew within about 15 minutes they dropped the water too much on us. I guess, because no one I know caught, no one was catching them around us. Because, I mean, there's freaking no more water where we were all catching them. So, anyways, I freaking goobered around, caught 1, that was it. And ended up going to another spot and catching 1 and went jacking around. Freaking shook a big one off in practice on a frog, went right back over there, freaking stuck it. Lost it, like a 4 or 5. Shook another one off in this boat dock on a frog, went over there, lost it, 4 or 5.
Damn,
And then I lost
you
it.
ain't supposed to lose
I
frogs,
know,
fish.
dude. I told him, I was like, I ain't freaking lost 2 fish on a frog ever in a tournament. So then I lost another 2.5. I had 2 30 minutes ago.
I mean, yeah.
I pulled in a spot where I started, like, my first practice.
Yeah.
It's about from here to there. I got 3 in there.
Frog.
No, 2 on a swim jig, 1 on a frog. Right.
What do you got? I ain't